If this is an SSD, and this is an SSD, and even this is an SSD, then what the hell is this thing? Let's check it out. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode with me, Budget Gaming HD, and in today's episode we will be exploring this mystery or an SSD that I've never seen before. I don't even think it's an SSD. We will be exploring this mystery SSD. I'm going to open it, see what's in the inside, load Windows, test it, benchmark it, and let's have some fun. Before we open this and check what's on the inside, let's first read. It says Photofast SSD, 2.5 SATA 2 solid state disk. So it's a SATA 2 interface. It's called a CR-9000, a 6-slot SDHC to SATA SSD adapter. On the back, there's nothing. There's just 3 screws. So let us see what this mystery SSD holds. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the capacity of one? 16 gigs. 16 times 6 is 96 gigs. I like it a lot. I wonder what will the speed be though. 30 megabytes per second. That's not a whole lot of speed. Hopefully this is connected in RAID. Nah, it can't be. If it's connected in RAID, depending on the RAID protocol that they use, we should see about 100 plus megabytes per second. Let me get the box. So this is the packaging it came in. It says Photofast CR-9000 2.5 SATA and then a bunch of, I guess this is Chinese, I'm not too sure, but let's check at the back. SDHC 4 to 32 gigabyte. So we've got the 16 gigabyte one. That's not too bad. And then something about 130 megabyte per second. Okay. So this must be a RAID controller then. It's configured apparently in RAID 0. And it does SATA 1.5 over 3 GBS. So that would indicate it's SATA 2 standard. Yeah, well, it's a whole lot of writing. Whole little less of testing. So let's get to the test. So what's the verdict with this SSD? SSD. Well, it's quite hard to say. If you guys recall earlier, I've mentioned that this says it's 130 megabytes per second configured in RAID 0. Now, for those of you who don't know, RAID 0 basically just means it adds up all your disks in a large array, and that increases the capacity and that increases your speed. However, RAID 0 does come with a con, and that is no redundancy. So if you fail one disk, if one of these SD cards fails, I lose my data, respectively, of course. Now, to get back to this SSD, it's hard to say if I like it or not. I like it for the fact that I can install class 10 128 gigabyte micro SDs into an SD converter and jam them in. And 6 of them, it should give me more or less 768 gigabytes. However, there will be a loss to it. It might be somewhere in the 700 gigabyte. And with a class 10 micro SD card that's running at 100 megabytes per second, I would expect this to deliver 300 megabytes per second. But that's getting back to the point. Where it said 130 megabytes per second, I ran a test. I first loaded Windows, which was sluggish at best. It felt like an old laptop hard drive, which wasn't great. But I gave it the benefit of the doubt and ran a hard drive test. The read came to a massive 262 megabytes per second. But however, that is expected from a micro SD or an SD card. They usually have a higher read than write rate. Now the write is quite interesting because it was only at 18.5 megabytes per second. The mixed result was 18.3 and sequential writes was only a mere 22. Now what's interesting, the HDD benchmark rates this at an 80 megabytes per second drive. However, I think they're doing the average between all the read and writes together where they get 80 megabytes, but this is not an 80 megabytes drive. Literally when I was working in Windows, it didn't feel good. It operates, but it's not great. Would I recommend this to anyone? If you're an enthusiast, an IT guy, yes, maybe. This was only £7 and it's quite interesting, I must say. I would like to buy a bunch of class 10 high-speed micro SD cards at 128 gigabytes and see how much I can squeeze out of this guy. Remember, there is a limiting factor to the SATA 2 protocol it uses, or the SATA 2 interface. I wouldn't advise to go buy the most expensive stuff, however, probably revisit this in another video and see how much speed I can get out of this. Now guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Hit my ding dong to stay up to date with my latest content, and I shall see you in the next one.